Okay, class. Today we are going to talk about the cache mapping function. Now, this is a pretty important topic, so I want all of you to pay attention and get ready with your notebooks and all, because there are certain things that you might want to jot down in this particular topic. Right? So let's begin. If you remember, we discussed about this particular flowchart, and we said that let's go through this flowchart once again so that the purpose of the mapping function becomes clearer to you. In this particular flowchart, we started with the processor outputting a memory address. As I have discussed earlier, and as I remember I asked you to note it down also, the processor always outputs the memory address for the larger memory, which in this case is the main memory. Right? We know that cache memory is a smaller memory, main memory is a larger memory. So the CPU or the processor will output a memory address for the main memory. Right? Let us call that address A. Now the next task that we do is we try to identify the particular memory block B which contains this address A. Right? We can say that each and every memory address is contained in a particular block. Say for example, if our main memory contains, let's take a simple case, let the main memory contain 128 words. 128 words, and let us say that each block is made up of 4 words, right? So if each block is made up of 4 words, that means the main memory has 128 divided by 4, that is 32 blocks. Now whenever the CPU will generate an address, it will generate the address for a particular word, right? Now this word, as I said, that each block of the main memory is made up of 4 words. Right? Now this particular address of the word that the CPU has generated will belong to some block. Let us say it is word number 0, 1, 2, 3, it will belong to block number 0. If it is 4, 5, 6, 7, it will belong to block number 1. If it is 8, 9, 10, 11, it will belong to block number 2, and so on. So after the CPU has identified or has generated the address for a word, the first task is to find out the memory block, let us call it B, which will contain the address A. Our next task is to check whether this block B has been mapped into the cache memory or not. Now this block B would have been mapped to the cache memory if there had been another reference to this block in the past. Now how do we check for the presence of this block in the cache memory? Now the problem is, let's continue with the same example. We have assumed that there are 128 words divided in 32 blocks. Let us say the cache memory, being smaller, has, let us say, 16 words in it. And once again, as I've discussed, the block in the main memory is same size as the line in the cache memory. So one line in the cache memory will also contain 4 words. That means there will be 4 lines in the cache memory. 16 words, 4 blocks per line, 4 word per line. That means there will be 4 lines in the cache memory. So there are 32 blocks in the main memory and 4 lines in the cache memory. So now the address for the main memory, as there are 128 words, will be a 7-bit address. And the address of the cache memory, there being only 16 words, will be a 4-bit address. Now how do we search for a particular block for which a 7-bit address has been generated in a cache memory which is going to use only a 4-bit address? This is where the mapping function comes into picture. Now the mapping function will help you to search for a particular block in the cache memory. Right? What mapping function essentially does, it tells you, please listen carefully, the mapping function tells you that a particular block from the main memory, if it is mapped into the cache memory, in which cache line it is going to reside. So for each and every block in the main memory, we are essentially going to decide that if this is going into the cache memory, it will go into this specific position, right? So that whenever I want to search for a particular block, I know I will go to a particular line in the cache memory and check for it there. This also helps in searching. This helps in mapping the data from the main memory to the cache memory as well as at the time of searching, right? So let's discuss about the three types of mappings, which are direct mapping, associative mapping, and so just to give you an idea, the mapping function determines how memory blocks are mapped to cache lines, also called the hashing function. So address conversion is done by giving special significance to the bits in the main memory address, right? Again, going with the same example, let us say our main memory has 128 words. So 128 words divided into 32 blocks. One block is equal to 4 words, right? So the memory address, please listen carefully, the memory address, main memory address will essentially be made up of two parts. The first part will be the block number and the second part will be the word number. The first part will tell me out of the 32 blocks which block I am looking for, and the second part will tell me out of the 4 words that are residing in this block which word I am looking for. Now, whenever I am mapping the contents of the main memory to the cache memory, the size of the main memory block is exactly same as the size of the cache memory line. What it means is that the positioning of the words in the cache memory line is exactly same as the positioning of the words in the main memory block. Say for example, main memory block number 1 will have words number 4, 5, 6 and 7. Now this block, if it is mapped into cache memory, any line of cache memory it is mapped into, the ordering of the words will still remain the same. The words will still be word number 4, 5, 6 and 7. What will be different is, there we were using in main memory, we were using block number. In cache memory, we will be using line number. But within this line, the offset of the word number will remain the same. So for the purpose of mapping, we take the main memory address and we divide the main memory address into sections which are called fields, right? And then these fields will help us to search for a particular location. So let's see this example. Here we say that this is the main memory. As you can see, this is quite large. We have the cache memory, which is obviously small. As you can see over here, just a simple depiction. Main memory, I have chosen, let us say 65,532 number of blocks. See, these are the addresses, and these are the block addresses. Once again, see over here, each block is made up of 4 words. Similarly, in case of cache memory, you can see there are 4 words. Here I am using word and byte as being the same thing. Now you can see down that the main memory address is divided into two parts. One is the block number, one is the byte offset. Now don't get confused. Earlier I was talking about word, here I am talking about byte. In this particular example, I am assuming one word is equal to one byte. Right? As we have discussed earlier in the previous units, word can be of any length. But in this particular example, we are assuming the word to be same as the byte. So there are three types of mappings: direct, associative, and set associative. Let's first talk about the direct mapping. Now direct mapping, we know that the number of blocks in the main memory is much higher as compared to the lines in the cache memory. So obviously, if you think about it, while mapping, many blocks of the main memory can be mapped to the same line in the cache memory. Right? Now what direct mapping does, direct mapping maps the, let us say there is a block in the main memory, block number X. Now it is mapped to the cache memory line number, let us say Y. How do we find cache memory number, line number Y? Let us say there are n number of blocks in the cache memory. Right? There are n number of lines in the cache memory. So Y is equal to X mod n. What it means is, it will be clearer when we go to the next slide. See over here. See, in the main memory, I am assuming that there are many number of blocks, whereas the cache memory has only 10 blocks. What direct mapping does is, the block number 0 of the cache memory will be mapped to line number 0, block number 1 to line number 1, block 2 to line 2, block and so on up to block number 9 to line number 9. After that, block number 10 will be again mapped to block number 0. If you see, 10 is equal to, see, this is the value X, 10 is the value X, and how many blocks are there in the cache memory? 10. So 10 mod 10 is equal to 0. 10 mod 10 will give me the remainder upon dividing 10 by 10. So 10 mod 10 is 0. So block number 10 will be mapped to line number 0. Block number 11 will be mapped to 11 mod 10, that is 1. So 11 will be mapped to 1, 12 will be mapped to 2, and so on. What it means is, each and every block of main memory has a tentative fixed position in the cache memory. Block number 0 can go to line number 0, block number 10 can go to line number 0, block number 20 can go to line number 0, and so on. Block number 1, 11, 21, 31, they can only go to line number 1, block number 2, 12, 22, 32, and so on. They will go to line number 3, and so on. So we have a direct formula where we will apply, where we can use the particular mapping. We can find out the line number in the cache memory which is going to hold a particular main memory block. Now, this is the structure of the cache memory. Now please pay attention over here. This is very important. The first bit is the valid bit. Valid bit indicates that whether this particular line in the cache memory has received any data from the main memory as of yet. Please remember, I have repeated it again and again, memory or bus or register or anything can never be empty. Even if there are all zeros, even that is a piece of data. So how do we know that the value that is present in a particular cache memory line has come from main memory or it is a garbage value? Now that is decided by this valid bit. If the valid bit is equal to 0, that means the value in this cache line has not come from the main memory. If the valid bit is 1, that means this particular line in cache memory has received data from main memory. Then we have the cache tag. Now tag is a very important part of the main memory address. Now as I said, there are much more number of main memory blocks as compared to cache memory lines. So obviously there are many blocks in the main memory that can map into the same cache memory cache memory line. As I discussed in the previous slide, the block number 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and so on, they can all map into cache memory line number 0. Now suppose we see that cache memory line number 0 is full. Okay, we know that this cache memory line number 0 has received some data from the main memory. But how do I know which data is it? Whether it is block number 0 or whether it is block number 10 or 20 or 30. How do I know that? Now, the task of identifying the particular block of the main memory falls down to this cache tag. So this tag is what we compare. We will have a tag value which we will calculate from the main memory address, and we have a tag value which is stored in this cache line. We will compare these two tags, and I will compare this tag that is stored in cache line number 0 to the tag from block number 0, block number 10, block number 20, block number 30 and so on. And wherever it matches, I will know that this particular block has been mapped to cache memory line. Next, this cache data is the actual data from the main memory that has come into the cache memory, right? Now, the main memory address is now divided into 3 parts. First is the word number. Now, word number, this number will remain the same irrespective of whether it is the main memory or the cache memory. This is the word offset. In our example, we have taken that there are 4 words in a block. That means this word number will be of 2 bits. If I want to identify 4 different words, I will have to use 2 bits. So the first word will be 00, second will be 01, then 10 and 11. So you can see over here, the word field, the length of the word field is log base 2 B, where B is the size of the block in words. In our case, size of block in words is 4. Each block is made up of 4 words. So the length of the word field is log base 2. So log base 2 4, that is equal to 2. Then I have the block field. This block field is this identifies which line in the cache memory this block can go to. So in this particular case, there are, in our example, there were 4 lines in the cache memory as I showed you in the just earlier slide. So there were 4 blocks or lines in the cache memory. So the size of the block field will again be 2, as the 4 lines can be identified by 00, 01, 10 and 11. Now the tag field can be calculated in 2 ways. Number 1, I can find out the length of the address of the main memory. I know how many words are there in the main memory. I can easily identify how the size of the total memory address, and total memory address minus the block size minus the block field minus the word field will give me the length of the tag field. Or I can do the M is the size of main memory and N is the number of lines in the cache memory. So log base 2 M by N will give me the tag field. I'll again repeat, this is the tag that is actually compared in case of cache searching. So the smaller the tag field, the lower the number of comparisons that we have to make between cache memory and main memory. And the smaller the tag field, the faster is the search. right? So cache data, this is just an explanation of the various fields that I have identified that we showed in the previous slide, right? We have the cache data, we have the cache tag, and we have the valid bit, right? Now, just for a simple example, consider the case of a main memory consisting of 4 kilo blocks. 4 kilo blocks and a cache memory containing of 128 blocks and a block size of 16 words, right? So first of all, we can very easily calculate the word field. Word field is the log base 2b, where b is the size of the block in terms of words. So our block size is 16 words. So the size of word field is log base to 16, that is 4 bits. Block field will be calculated from the number of blocks in the cache memory. In this case, this is 128. So log base to 128, that is 7 bits. And tag field. Now let us let's calculate the tag field by using both the methods. As you can see, we have considered 4 kilo blocks. 4 kilo blocks. 4 kilo block means 1 kilo is 2 to the power 10. And 4 is 2 to the power 2. So for the main memory, there are 2 to the power 12 blocks. And each block has 16 words. So 2 to the power 12 multiplied by 16, that is 2 to the power 12 multiplied by 2 to the power 4, that is 2 to the power 16 words are there in the main memory. So for 2 to the power 16 words, I will need 16-bit address. So this is the size of the total memory address. Now I have calculated word field as 4-bit, block field as 7-bit. So that means 4 plus 7 is 11. 16 minus 11 is 5 bits. I can calculate tag field by using log base to m by n. This also comes out to 5 bits. Right? Now let us see this example. This is a very interesting example. This example actually tells you about the hit ratio to expect when using different types of sequences. Here I am assuming the cache memory is being directly mapped, and let us assume that 040808, these are the main memory accesses. What it means is the CPU is trying to access main memory block number 0, then block number 4, then block number 0, then block number 8, then block number 0, 8, 0, 4, 0, 4, 0, 4, and so on. And let us once again assume that our cache memory has 4 lines. Cache memory line number 0, line number 1, line number 2, and line number 3. Right? Now, let's see. When the CPU tries to access main memory block number 0, obviously at the very beginning the cache memory is going to be empty. So it is a cache miss. So the data will not be found in the cache memory. So the data will have to be brought from the main memory, and at the same time block number 0 will be mapped to line number 0. It is direct mapping. So block number 0 is going to be mapped into line number 0 mod 4, that is 0. Next, the CPU tries to access main memory block number 4. Now please remember, out of the 4 possible lines of the cache memory, only 1 is being used, 3 are still vacant. But when the CPU is trying to access the main memory block number 4, now that block number 4 is not present in the in the cache memory, so once again it will have to be brought from the main memory. Now from the main memory, when block number 4 is being brought, it will be copied into cache memory line number 4 mod 4, that is, surprise surprise, again 0. So cache memory line number 0, which already contained block number 0, is now overwritten by block number 4. This is when the 3 remaining lines of the cache memory are still vacant. Now if the accesses are 040808040404, please see this. Any main memory block that I am trying to access, that is always being mapped to cache memory line number 0. So that means the hit ratio essentially is 0. You can see in each and every access I'm having a cache miss. This is the worst case scenario. This is the best case scenario. Here the main memory accesses are 0, 7, 9, 10, 0, 7, 9, 10, 0, 7, 9, 10. Now you can see the first block that I'm trying to access gets mapped into cache memory line number 0. The second block is getting mapped into cache memory line number 3. The third one is getting mapped into cache memory line number 1. And the fourth is getting mapped into cache memory line number 2. Now after that, the accesses are such that I will not have to replace any block. The data that the CPU is requesting is always present in the cache memory. So these are the two extremes. In case of direct mapping, there is no flexibility. The main memory block has to go into a fixed cache memory line. Another very important point over here is, in case of direct mapping, we do not require any any replacement algorithm. We discussed about the replacement algorithms, LRU, LFU, FIFO, random. But in case of cache memory, directly mapped cache memory, we do not require any replacement algorithm. Why? Why do we require a replacement algorithm? When we have to decide which line of the cache memory to replace. But in case of direct memory, we do not have to decide anything. We know that this particular block of the main memory is going into this particular line of the cache memory. If it is empty, I will simply copy it. If it is full, I will overwrite the previous contents. There is no decision per se. Now, on the other extreme, where I can have maximum flexibility, is fully associative mapping. Fully associative mapping simply says that any block of the main memory can be placed in any line of the cache memory, whichever is vacant. So, any block of the main memory, there is no formula, there is no rule. Any block of the main memory can be placed into any line of the cache memory that is vacant. If there are no lines in the cache memory that are free, then I will have to use some replacement algorithm. So as this is simply the case, so the main memory address is now divided just into two parts. One is the word field, one is the tag field. Word field, once again, remember I said that this is the address of the word within the block, right? Tag, and the remaining all the bits of the main memory are now the tag field. Obviously, the length of the tag field is going to be larger in case of fully associative mapping as compared to direct mapping. So although fully associative mapping is giving me a higher level of flexibility in storing the data into the cache memory, but the increased size of the tag field means that now we have to search for, or we have to compare more number of lines as compared to direct mapping. The searches becomes a little bit slow. As you can see over here, block number 0 can go to any line, block number 1 can go to any line, block number 2 can go to any line, and so on. Right? So we have a valid bit, we have a dirty bit, then we have a tag, and finally we have the data from the cache memory. So word field once again is log base 2b, where b is the size of the block in words. Tag field, once again I can find out by using two methods. One is the total size of the main memory address minus word field, or log base 2m, where m is the size of the main memory in blocks. Again, using the same example, 4 kilo block main memory, cache memory 128 block, and block size is 16 words. In this case, the word field, again the word field still remains the same. It will again be of 4 bits, but now the tag field becomes the 12 bits. So this is the fully associative mapping. We have the valid bit, we have the cache tag, and the cache data. Remember this and this. These are the same examples, same two examples that we talked about in case of direct mapping. But now what we have done is, we have used fully associative mapping over here. In case of direct mapping, when we considered this particular sequence of main memory accesses, we were having 0% hit ratio. But you can see in this case, when we are using fully associative mapping, I am using 75% hit ratio. So in this case, we see that the hit ratio increases from 0% to 75%. Right. Now, it's not like that the fully associative mapping, as it can give a better hit ratio, it is quite good. The point is the design now, it now requires the application of a replacement algorithm. So the first disadvantage is we have to now decide upon a replacement algorithm. We have to implement a particular replacement algorithm. And the second is that there are much increased number of searches as compared to the direct mapping. Now we have a third type of mapping which tries to take the benefit of both the types of earlierly discussed mapping. That is the set associative mapping. Now it is a compromise between the direct mapping and the fully associative mapping. Now direct mapping was least flexible but easiest to implement. Fully associative was most flexible but also most complex to design. So, and also fully associative was slowest in searches. Now the set associative mapping is somewhere in between. In case of set associative mapping, we divide the cache memory into sets. Right? We divide the cache memory in sets. Please listen carefully. In case of set associative mapping, the cache memory lines are divided into sets. You can have 2 sets or 4 sets or 8 sets or whatever. A particular main memory block will go to a cache memory set by using the simple formula. Suppose there are S number of sets. Suppose there are S number of sets, then a main memory block number X will go to the cache memory set number X mod S. Right? So up to this point it is similar to direct mapping. But again, cache memory set is not of a single line. It has multiple lines in it. Now one particular main memory block, which set it is going to be mapped, is decided as per direct mapping. But within the set there will be multiple lines. But within the set it can map to any line. This is the feature of the fully associative mapping. So set associative mapping combines the features of both. In this particular, you can see in this example, we have taken the cache memory. We have divided this cache memory into 2 sets, set number 0 and set number 1. Now the shading shows you. Now the main memory block number 0 can go to cache memory set number 0. Set number 0, not line number, set number 0. Main memory block number 1 can go to cache memory set number 1. Right? To summarize, main memory block number 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, they can go to set number 0. And main memory block numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, they can go to cache memory set number 1. Now within the set there are 2 lines. Now the main memory block can go to any particular line of its specific set, whichever is free. Right? So now in case of set associative mapping, now the main memory address is now divided into 3 parts. First is obviously the first word field, which again is the same. It is log base to B, which is B is the number of words in the block. Then we have the set field. Set field is calculated as log base to S, where S is the number of sets. And the remaining bits are called the tag field. Now please pay attention. In the numerical examples that you might see or the question that you might be given, there are 2 possibilities. First, you may be directly given the number of set. If you are given the number of sets, you can easily find the value of the set field by s is equal to log base to s. Or you may be given the size of a set. Say for example, I tell you that the cache memory has 128 lines and one set is made up of 4 lines. I am not giving you the number of sets. How can you find the number of sets? Simply divide the number of lines in the cache memory by the size of the set and you get the number of sets in the cache memory. Right? So these are the different fields and how to calculate them. Again, let's see this example. Once again, the values are pretty much the same. The main memory is 4 kilo blocks. Size of the cache memory is 128 blocks. The block size is 16 words. Right? Now we are using, the system uses set associative mapping with 4 blocks per set. See, I am not giving you number of sets, but I am telling you how many blocks are there per set. Please remember, sets are only made in the cache memory and not in the main memory. Right? Now, how many sets will be there in the cache memory? The cache memory has 128 blocks. One set is made up of 4 blocks. So there are a total of 32 sets. You can easily calculate the size of the word field, the set field, and the number of bits in the tag field. Same example, using now the set associative mapping, considering the set size as 2. So they will have 2 sets, set 0, set 1. Each set will have 2 lines, cache 0, cache line 0, 1, 0, 1. Now, using set associative mapping, we get 67% as the hit ratio.